for small and mid-market business owners, how they will eventually transition their ownership to another party. It's so important that those business owners understand what's going to be happening in that exit process and prepare well in advance. It can be such a financial disaster for those business owners if they don't understand what's coming. They don't prepare themselves personally and don't prepare their business for a successful exit. The good news is the more exit ready they become, the easier it is for them to operate their business. Cool. So that's the dirty little secret about exit planning. It's going to actually make your job leading a company much easier if you're ready for a successful exit.
Hey Tom, welcome to Business Club.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again. It's always a pleasure when we have this conversation. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to create a podcast series with small business owners who've come to Business Club or who've been in some way or the other associated with Business Club. The whole idea is to kind of know more about you, your journey, your background, your business background, and all that, so that we could actually inspire some next generation entrepreneurs with some tidbits that they could actually leverage and build something of their own. Mm-hmm. That's the whole idea. So look forward to having a great conversation with you.
Me too.
Great. So just give me a little bit background about yourself, your company. What did you? Where were you born? Are you from Charlotte and things like that?
All right. I'm not from Charlotte.
Okay.
Not surprising. Most of us aren't. I grew up in northern Indiana.
Okay.
I went to Purdue University. Met my wife there, and then moved to Connecticut for many years, and then down to North Florida for many years, and now moved to Charlotte in 2005.
Oh, okay.
And that's where I started a consulting company. But my background has been largely finance and technology throughout.
And you worked with quite a few companies prior to starting your own consulting?
Absolutely. Several, but many in the banking industry. And most of my finance work was in the banking world.
Okay, great. So when you started your consulting, what area were you focusing on?
Very general consulting. I had a very broad-based perspective on business because I worked with a number of smaller companies where I wore a lot of hats. So I was very cognizant of the fact that value can come from anywhere in a business. So I was kind of focused on everything from sales and marketing to operations to technology to human resources, very broadly.
The whole gamut. Okay.
That's right.
So in your journey, so are you still doing consulting or?
No, I hung that up at the end of 2022.
2022 during COVID or?
Just after COVID. But it wasn't because of COVID though.
Okay. And what did you do? What are you doing currently? I know you have a product as well.
Yeah, well, my company is Evalusis. It's a technology software as a service business that serves business advisors and management consultants. And so that's my current focus.
So when did you start that plunge into developing a product?
That was in 2007. When I started my consulting practice in 2005, when I moved to Charlotte, I started working with smaller businesses and was just overwhelmed by the potential opportunity to improve those businesses across all their functional areas.
Okay.
So I quickly realized that I needed some technology support for that. And there wasn't anything in the marketplace at that time to be able to support that. So
so you went ahead and created it all by yourself.
I went ahead and created it.
Great. So what inspired you to do that? I mean, I know there was nothing outside there. And then you also you felt that the businesses could need. So what other factors inspired you to start this?
Well, I recognized that there was a need to do that work. And as I did that on a manual basis with business owners over the years, in 2005, 2006, I recognized that it was very labor intensive and somewhat tedious.
Right.
And to be able to bill my hours for that discovery process would have been very difficult for many of the smaller businesses that I had supported to be able to deal with. So I felt like I needed to create some automation
Mm.
to take some of the cost out of that experience for them.
Got it. And then, so during the process, you realized that this is something that you can actually do it as a subscription model.
Yeah, yeah. I felt like if I'm going to build it, I might as well build it like a business instead
Yeah.
of just some tools in my back pocket.
Mm.
So I figured I'd create a software as a service company around that, and we launched that in 2009. It took us a couple of years for the initial development of the platform, and
Great.
continued to
So,
evolve.
so who are your clients? Are they the business advisors or the companies themselves?
Well, it's an interesting question because it actually started off being I was serving the business owners. So our technology was built to create this discovery process that a business owner would go through directly.
Right.
Um, and it was kind of an advertising model, like many were back in that day, where we would have subscriptions that business advisors could pay to be the expert when a business owner went through, and we concluded there was a problem in marketing or in sales.
Right.
It would be able to position that advisor as the expert and could be push a button to get a meeting with that advisor.
Oh, okay. So primarily today, your clientele is the advisors.
Today it is. Yeah, it didn't take very long for me to decide that it was difficult to reach the business owner community directly.
Okay.
Because I wasn't stellar in marketing and sales. So I
Okay.
was more of a finance and technology guy.
Got it.
So I felt it was important to be able to pivot the business and focus on the business advisor community. And that's been a good decision so far.
Cool. And, what challenges that you faced while building this product or throughout your consulting? Any challenges that you want to talk about?
Well, part of my challenge, again, we launched the advisor platform in 2009.
Okay.
And when I found that there was limited uptake, limited adoption of the platform, I felt like it was important for me to rejoin the community of business consultants and use my own technology
Right.
in order to understand where there might be some friction in the process. So in 2013, I got back into the consulting world and used the tool, and I realized very quickly why there were challenges
Right.
with adoption by our advisors. So I went to work continuing to improve the product to be able to make those issues go away. And so once I got started back in consulting and using these tools, it was so impactful that I just continued to want to serve the business community by being an advisor, and was on the side continuing to develop the advisor's business.
Got it. Okay. So how did you develop your expertise in developing this automation product? And you come from a finance and fintech world. So are you a technologist yourself, or are you just a...
Yes, I am. Yes,
Okay.
I am. I got a business degree from Purdue, but we had a lot of technology, a lot of computer work at Purdue at that time. And my first job out of Purdue was actually as a software developer.
Okay.
And continued to develop that. And on the side, I was going for my finance MBA.
Okay.
So did a lot of technology consulting work in the Chicago area for a number of years. And it wasn't until we moved to Connecticut that I actually fell into the finance side of banking. Then I stayed in finance for quite a number of years, up to and including mergers and acquisitions work in the banking industry.
Nice.
Up in the Northeast.
Cool.
And some of the tools that I've built in the Evalusis platform actually take some of their cues from some of the things I was innovating in the banking world back in the early 90s.
Cool. So I have, I know your system is described as a SWOT analysis on steroids. Can you just expand on that?
Yeah, of course, everyone understands that SWOT means strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Yes.
And so what our diagnostic platform is trying to do is understand where those strengths and weaknesses are, which also turns out to expose where the opportunities and threats are for the business. So one of the things that I've recognized through using the tool with business owners myself is that many times the issues that are most impactful to the business are completely off the radar of these business owners.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not cognizant of it. And by using a very disciplined, structured diagnostic process, you can uncover some things that that might be actually quite apparent to an outsider, but within the business itself, it would be totally off their radar. And so it's particularly important to address that you don't know what you don't know problem.
Got it. So why is it called it's on steroids? I know it probably does a lot of things faster, or is it
Just deeper?
Deeper, okay.
Well, it is faster too.
Okay.
No question about it. I talked about trying to do this process manually, and I would take over a dozen hours of interviews with the owner and the leadership team in order to be able to collect the information. And that left me with a big stack of yellow pads. And I'm a lefty, and my writing is really quite cryptic. So I found myself trying to interpret my own hieroglyphics, and found that it was challenging to get back into my office, interpret all my notes, and understand where the opportunities and recommendations would be for that client. So if you think about probably 15 hours plus to be able to do that discovery manually, and it's probably closer to 4 hours in the automated world.
So a business advisor, would they still charge 15 hours?
It's up to them.
Okay.
It's up to them. We charge directly to the business advisor, and they typically mark up,
right?
Because our diagnostics just become the starting point for their work.
Okay.
And really the magic happens when they take our information that we deliver and they add their own expertise and knowledge to that and present it to the client.
Got it.
That's where the magic happens, and they should get paid for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So typically these business owners, are they from the finance and technology world, or are they into the regular small business owners?
They're regular business owners, and I personally used Evaluassist in my consulting practice with companies that were in the $2 to $3 million range on the low side, and $100 million in revenue on the upper side. But kind of the sweet spot is any industry in the $5 to $30 million revenue range.
Great. Okay. And from a system perspective, what are some of the top 3 issues that your Evaluassist uncovers, if you will?
The top issues?
The top 2 to 3 issues.
That's hard to say, because
depends on the business, I guess.
It really does.
Okay.
And if a typical business would use our diagnostic, or an advisor would use a diagnostic with a typical small or mid-market company, they'll probably uncover somewhere in the area of 70 to 80 recommended actions.
Wow.
And so that's a lot to digest.
Right.
And there's a lot of gems within that. Clearly, there's a prioritization that needs to happen, and we have some tools within Evaluassist that will help to do that.
Got it. And how do you think the product has actually evolved over time since its inception?
Well, we started off by adding additional diagnostic content. So we started off with about 7 or 8 modules, and the typical marketing and sales and business planning and executive leadership and financial control. Those were some of the first ones that we had.
Okay.
But then one of the real interesting pivots there was I got together with the founder of the Exit Planning Institute, Peter Chrisman, and a few other specialists in the Charlotte area, an M&A attorney and a wealth planner and a investment banker here in Charlotte. And the 4 of them put their heads together to help us design an exit planning related evaluation. And that was really interesting. That was really my first introduction to exit planning, and it's really been central to the work I did with business owners
Right.
from that point on.
When you say exit planning, to talk about like an exit strategy for the people who have invested, they want to get out of the business. Is that what you're talking about?
It's more for the business owner
Yeah, yeah.
and understanding how they will eventually transition their ownership to another party, whether it's a buyer from outside or whether it's family or whatever the exit
Right.
vehicle is that they use. But it's so important that those business owners understand what's going to be happening in that exit process and prepare well in advance. It's can be such a financial disaster for those business owners if they don't understand what's coming. They don't prepare themselves personally and don't prepare their business for a successful exit.
Got it. Any client success story that you've had that you want to share with the audience?
From a consulting perspective, or
Both.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. From the evaluators, I guess your success story comes from the business advisors who would have used it and scaled their
Yeah,
advisory, right?
maybe I'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Since it's more relevant today. So one of the opportunities was there was a $100 million company based in the Southeast U.S., and they were actually a subsidiary of a large public conglomerate. And that CEO of that business unit wanted to take Evaluasis, and I provided access to be able to do that. And they were somewhat suspect that they would find a lot of opportunity because they were a very, very successful enterprise.
Right.
They had hockey stick growth. They were knocking it out of the park every day. And so the CEO went through that process and found, again, about 70 issues. And so we got on the phone to talk about that, and because he was trying to understand why would he have these kind of issues when he had such a successful business. And as we talked about it and we looked at the diagnostic results, it became clear that it was almost entirely in the marketing and sales area, because that was the area that he had total discretion over.
Right.
The areas that were dictated by corporate, the HR space, and the finance world were buttoned up pretty well because they were dictated by corporate. But once we began to talk about some of those issues, the light bulb came on for him, and he was so excited about the results that he became a champion for Evaluasis across that whole corporate entity. He went to his group executive and said, I think every one of the CEOs in our organization should go through this process. So that was an amazing win.
Oh, great. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And some shifting gears a little bit, well, let's talk a little bit about the industry trends and things like that. So what are some of the most challenges that the business advisors today face in the market?
Well, I think most business advisors struggle to do business development. Having been there, I certainly understand that, particularly as someone that doesn't have a marketing and sales background.
Right.
Being able to deliver marketing and sales for your consulting practice can be really challenging. So having the right tools that support that process is important, and also having the right coaching as well. So
Right.
I think that's very important that they are able to kind of control the experience of business development and not simply rely upon referrals as their primary source of opportunity.
Got it. How do you think the role of the C-suite executives or the CMOs, fractional CMOs, all those guys have changed? So how does Evaluasis, your product, help them in getting suitable to the market?
Well, I think the foundational tools within Evaluasis, the diagnostic process, we call it the Business Wellness Diagnostic Series.
Right.
It's somewhat old school, but it's touching all the bases, and it's particularly important for them to have that broad immersion in the business, because the more that they understand about the company that they're trying to serve, the
Right.
better they can provide opportunities for growth and performance improvement. So by introducing this diverse diagnostic process, they can expose more and more opportunities, and that creates particular value for the client and also for them as a business, as their own business,
Right.
and whether they act on all of those issues themselves or they surround themselves with a collection of specialists, much like I did in my consulting practice. It creates value into their consulting practice as well as referral opportunities outward into
Absolutely.
their referral network. That's particularly important in growing their practice.
That makes sense. So, what trends do you see shaping the future of business advisory?
Well, you mentioned AI.
Uh,
You can't
yeah,
really go too
ignore.
far in this conversation without talking about AI. AI is amazing,
Mm,
and has been particularly impactful for me and my company in a number of ways. And I see continued growth in adoption and integration with AI in the Advisors platform
that's
in the years
great.
ahead.
So, how have you integrated that into your platform?
We haven't actually completed integration. We've been doing sort of proof of concept work
Right.
using Microsoft Copilot
Okay.
as a platform. So one of the things that we found in that regard is the immense quality and quantity of information that comes out of our diagnostic process by way of recommended actions,
Right.
when fed into an AI model, creates some really compelling output.
Mm,
So the more the quality and quantity of the information shared into the AI model, the more the
the better the product.
quality output and the more impactful and the more profound the results coming back from AI.
Correct.
So early proof of concept work shows that there's a lot of magic that will be happening on
In
the
this,
Advisors platform going
great.
forward.
So, imagine a scenario. There was no evalusis,
Mhm.
and your businesses who are your clients. Why would they? How they would be struggling with their challenges and issues and things like that.
You're talking about the advisors?
Yeah, the advisors as well as the business owners.
Well, again, from a business owner perspective, they're handicapped by not being
Not
able
having,
to
yes,
see all of the issues that are going on in their business, because
right,
usually there's one or two or five issues that are biting them in the tail that they're chasing down at any point in time.
right.
And so many times they're interested in not being taken off of the track of solving those problems. But unfortunately, one of the things that I found in my own experience with these business owners is that the issues that they're chasing down, the issues that they're investing in solving within their business, are not nearly as important as some of the ones that have been hidden from them.
Mm,
So it's particularly essential that we get those diagnostic tools out in front of them, be able to expose those areas of hidden opportunity, and then allow them to make the right business decisions on where they should be investing their time and money to improve the business going forward.
okay, cool. So I know, you had some challenges scaling it. You mentioned a little bit. Can you go a little bit deeper into those challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome them?
Well, the biggest challenge that I found myself having, and I talked a little bit about my
Yeah,
journey where I came back into consulting in 2013
right.
using the tool, and then continued to serve business clients, consulting clients, as well as try to develop the Advisors platform on the
Hmm.
side. And striking that balance was very difficult. And I found myself inevitably focused on serving the needs of my consulting clients,
The
uh,
product took a backseat.
and the product took a backseat.
Hmm.
So that's when, at the end of 2022, I decided I can't split
Do
my.
both.
I can't do both. Can't do both. And having done exit planning work with my clients, my
Yeah.
consulting clients, and having some foundational expertise in exit planning, I realized that I have this technology company here that has a long way to go in terms of being exit ready.
Right.
And if I continue to just focus on the needs of other CEOs rather than address the issues inherent in my own technology business, I was never going to be exit ready for Evaluasys. So I said, I've got to cut it off at the end of 2022 and begin focusing directly on developing the exit readiness of Evaluasys.
How far have you reached with the exit?
Not nearly as far as I would have liked.
Okay.
And this goes back to what I want to make sure that the business owner community understands. It's going to take a lot longer than you think it will. There's going to be more issues to tackle, and they're going to take longer to tackle them than you think. So if you are going to wait until you are just 18 to 24 months from wanting to retire to begin preparing, that's too late. You really need to begin thinking at least 5 years out.
Oh, wow.
And that will give you some runway to be able to address many of the issues that you're going to uncover.
So what lessons have you learned while working with the consultants and the business advisors throughout your journey?
What lessons have I learned?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the way that I structured my consulting practice over the years was very collaborative. Once again, I was more the facilitator of a process as a consultant, and I had a network of over 65 specialists around the country who were uniquely talented in a particular area of business. So finance, fractional CFOs, technologists even, marketing, sales, human resources, as well as functional specialties like lean manufacturing and supply chain management. So all those people knew so much more about their functional area than I would ever know in my lifetime. It was a tremendous learning experience to be able to have the honor to work with them, with my clients, because it was like drinking from a fire hose every day and learning some amazing information about all these different areas of management. It was really a blessing for me.
Cool. So I know you, this entire Evaluasys as a platform is, you put a lot of effort into building the technology. So did you have a team work with you on this, or did you do it all by yourself?
Both.
Both.
Started off in 2007
Yeah.
with a technology partner that was doing the initial development. And then later in 2008, I did hire a team of people that were developing and putting the final touches on it. And then at a certain point, when I felt like I had an MVP product available and I wanted to get it out there in the market and I wanted to really see it grow, I basically took on the technology care and feeding myself.
Cool. So, and how did you balance between, being an automation junkie, if I may call you that way, to being to having that personal touch with the business advisors, and it has to go both hand in hand. And if you're an automation junkie, more of your time is focused on that.
Yeah, I think that plays out with my decision to reopen the consulting company in 2013.
Okay.
So that way I would have direct experience with using the tools that I had developed and understand where their strengths and where there were weaknesses. So that way I could focus some of the continued development of the platform in those areas that I found were weak.
They give you practical insights, basically.
Yes, I was getting feedback from my network of specialists all the time,
right,
on where there was some opportunity to improve the platform.
Cool, very cool. What advice would you give, aspiring business advisors who are planning to use tools like yours?
I would suggest that you just try it and try a number of tools and find the one that really works for them. Hopefully they'll find that Evaluasys is by far the best product out there. I think there's a lot of other tools that are in the marketplace that are available. None of those tools were available back in 2007 when I started to design Evaluasys, but there's a whole host of products out there that are really quite different in their approach than Aviasys.
Do you have any direct competitors?
Yes and no.
You don't have to mention them, but
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of tools out there that I mentioned that are kind of top down in the way that they approach the analysis. So they spend they ask the client to spend 15 minutes or so answering a collection of questions, and then they produce a 60-page document of amazing information, and it is amazing information. But unfortunately, it doesn't drill down far enough to be able to be totally actionable.
Right.
Leaves you with some very big picture opportunities,
high level,
for improvement, but without specifically indicating how do you address those high level opportunities. So I call those top down opportunities, top down solutions, and many times there's a lot of mystical algorithms that are a part of these tools, which many times advisors find difficult to understand and explain to their clients, which is very, very much a concern, because if you can't explain these tools that you're using to your client in a cogent way, the client's going to lose trust in you. So you need to avoid that. Now, Aviasys is different in that it's more bottom up. It's more automating the experience that they would have just sitting like you and I are here, whether it's a CMO or a CFO or executive coach or HR specialist, going through and having a conversation about the way you're managing that aspect of the business. It's basically automating that very natural process. And so the outputs that come out of Aviasys are much more
robust.
They're much more
detail-oriented,
natural, and there's not a whole lot of academic fluff around our tools. So it's very clear how to interpret the information that we have. You don't have to have a PhD in order to be able to explain the output of Aviasys to anyone. So that's the distinction that really becomes a value proposition for us.
So, I know you mentioned AI's integration into Aviasys is going to be big. How is AI going to help you get there? I know it's going to do a lot of generative content and things like that, but will it be able to evaluate the study that they do, or how's it going to work?
Well, we're still trying to understand exactly how deep we can go with bringing AI into the Aviasys business. Right now, we've looked at two different areas. One is taking the recommended actions and all of the implications and pain that is exposed through our diagnostics today, and feed that into AI and ask them to be able to expand on the potential opportunities and the value that this creates for the business if they address that problem. That's one area that we've proven AI is
can
going
work.
to be immensely impactful.
Got it.
And in fact, our users can use that today if they have Microsoft Copilot and Edge. They could probably even push it into ChatGPT. The other area of opportunity for us is to automate some of the planning vehicles that we have. I mentioned that it's very common for a business to go through Aviasys and have 70, 80, 90 issues. Well, that needs to be prioritized so they don't get overwhelmed. They know where they need to start. So the Aviasys tool has two planning vehicles that help them to do that. One is called Goal Impact Analysis, and the other is called Value Growth Architecture. And when I looked at AI with Goal Impact Analysis, I found that a lot of the work that right today in Goal Impact Analysis we're asking the client to do can be automated using AI. So what we ask the client to do is to start off with Goal Impact Analysis to articulate their top 5 strategic goals for their business. And then as they go through our diagnostic experience, it'll identify problems that are inherent in various functional areas of the company. And we're asking them to rate the degree to which that problem might have an impact on their ability to achieve their strategic goal. And that's a really impactful opportunity, a great leadership team exercise to go through. But I found that I could ask AI to take a first pass at it. And
That's
it
interesting.
did a fantastic job of identifying which of the goals that could be impacted by a particular problem, and the degree to which goals could be impacted, and explaining why
Got
they
it.
felt like this was an impact. So my intention is to use AI to automate a first pass review of this goal impact analysis.
Right.
And then instead of working from a blank sheet of paper by the leadership team, they have an AI assisted starting point to work with.
That's awesome. So basically, it's going to be a big enhancer for your tool.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool, cool. So, how can advisors effectively communicate the value of your diagnostic tools to their clients?
That's a great question. Recently, we had a webcast that I did with a good friend of mine, Dr. Larry Gard, who is a psychologist out of Chicago area, and I met with him through my work with the Exit Planning Exchange. He's a member of the Chicago chapter there. And so I've had a number of years working with and collaborating with Dr. Gard, and I found it particularly interesting to recognize some of the challenges that advisors have in breaking through barriers that business owners set up.
Right.
Many times, business owners will be reluctant to admit there are weaknesses and challenges and problems with their company, which creates a barrier for a business advisor to help them. So recently, I did a webcast with Dr. Gard where we talked about those factors and the different heuristics involved and the forms of cognitive bias that you're typically going to see in the marketplace. And so I would encourage everyone who's watching this to go to our Adviasis channel on YouTube and watch the
interview with the doctor.
With Dr. Gard. I think you'll find a great number of opportunities to learn ways that you can interact more successfully with business owners, get past those biases, and open their mind to new ideas for their company.
Great. So what advice would you give the young business owners, say someone like, not business owners, business advisors? I always take this example of Aryan, who's just a graduate, and then he's getting into the market. For someone like him, if he wants to become an advisor, what would you advise from your perspective?
I would think the most important thing is to understand where your personal strengths and weaknesses, and where your passions are,
Right.
and build your advisory practice around those areas. And if there are, if you want to take the same path that I did, I went that direction, and then I surrounded myself with some very talented people who had expertise that was beyond my areas of specialty, and collaborated with my clients with that team approach. I think that's a winning formula.
Right.
I'd recommend that they do that. And of course, I would recommend that they supplement that with Adviasis.
Of course.
That's where you can expose opportunities for all of the specialists in your network.
Right. What are some of the key skills or traits that you would like to see in an advisor to properly represent Adviasis, if you will?
Well, I think analytical skills are great.
Yeah.
I think the most underrated and most important skill is listening.
Listening, yeah.
Yeah. So
And interpersonal skills.
Yeah. Being able to communicate. It's particularly important to be able to create rapport and trust with a client.
Right.
Because if you're not able to do that, you're going to find it really difficult to make money as a business advisor.
So that's cool. So what's next for Adviasis?
Besides AI, there's a tremendous amount of growth opportunity for our platform. And I think we're going to be focusing on buttoning up or improving some of our reporting capabilities in our platform. But AI is going to be tied in there, most definitely. One of the areas that is continuing to develop as a hot spot for using of Evaluatus is where you have a network of collaborative advisors, specialists, and you want to be able to improve the ability to refer business across that network.
Right.
Utilizing tools like Evaluatus, I should say, using Evaluatus.
Is the way to go.
Because there really aren't tools like Evaluatus that can beat what we can deliver in that area. That provides a great way to expose those referral opportunities, to grow the success of a referral network. And so right now I'm working with a couple of referral networks that are hopefully going to be employing Evaluatus to be able to do just what I did in my own consulting practice so successfully.
Got it. Where do you see the business advisory services going in the next 5 to 10 years?
I just think it's going to be more and more of the same, more and more adoption of technology as part of...
And AI, of course.
Yeah, and AI, of course. And so I think continued collaboration among fractional executives. I think the fractional executive model
It's going
is
to go
outstanding.
Yep.
Is an outstanding opportunity. And I would hope that businesses that are in that, $5 to $20 million range are going to take advantage of adopting some of those fractional leaders in their business, because there's a great deal of value that they can generate for those companies.
Cool. Very cool. So we are towards the end. We have a rapid fire round, but before that, I just have to ask you some closing questions.
Okay.
So what motivates you to keep innovating and helping business advisors?
I would probably say because of the diversity of my own background, having worked in large corporate environments and worked for small businesses, and been a CEO myself, I've walked in the shoes of many of my clients, so I can definitely have a great deal of empathy for small and mid-market business owners, having kind of walked in their shoes. And having been a consultant for so many years, I can understand the challenges and opportunities for them, and continue to have such great empathy for them as well. So it's that empathy that continues to drive me to want to continue to improve the services that Evaluatus brings to be able to help not only the advisor community, but also the business owners they serve.
So what would be one advice that you would like to give today to the business advisors as well as the business owners community?
Just continue to evolve and improve on the way that you're delivering your services, whether you're a business owner or you're advising business owners. Technology is presenting so many new opportunities to do things better and faster. So don't allow yourself to get caught behind. Continually learn. Whether you're trying to drive a business and grow a business, or whether you're trying to serve business owners, just be always learning.
Always learning. Keep it on.
That's right.
All right, cool. So before we get to the rapid fire, any other question, any other thing that you want to talk to the audience about? I know you wanted to say a few things, or you probably said, if I don't miss out, I'd like to.
And I touched on this a couple times, the whole notion of exit planning.
Got it.
I think I've seen so many cases where business owners were unfortunately struck by changes in their life that caused them to be able to, or not be able to, continue to operate their companies.
Right.
And because of their lack of preparation, they left millions of dollars on the table, literally. And in many cases, that was a devastating financial hit for them. So it's particularly important that we are able to get out that message to business owners. And to that end, back in 2019, I decided to create a nonprofit organization here in Charlotte called the Exit Planning Exchange of Charlotte. It's a chapter of a national organization, XPX, or Exit Planning Exchange. And I did that because I wanted to solve that problem for business owners in the Charlotte community. And so we launched in 2020, and this was kind of in the midst of COVID.
Yeah.
And so it had a little bit of a slow start, but now we're over 4 years into this.
Wow.
And we've got nearly 60 members in our Charlotte chapter and a tremendous leadership organization. We've got a fabulous board of directors and a tremendous amount of passionate business consultants and professional services providers here in Charlotte. And right now, our focus at XPX Charlotte is to drive our message out into the community and help to create that awareness by business owners of the immense need for them to prepare early for a successful exit. So that's the most important message I want to make sure to get out there.
Sure. And is there any cost of joining?
Cost of joining XPX?
Yes.
Well, first off, XPX Charlotte and all the XPX organizations around the country, they are organizations that are purely business advisors.
Yeah.
And so there is a cost, and that varies from chapter to chapter. In Charlotte, the cost is $350 a year. There's tremendous sponsorship opportunities for those businesses that would like to do that. But it's a tremendous opportunity to collaborate with some of the brightest minds and talents in the professional services community, whether you're attorneys, whether you're investment bankers or business brokers, whether you're consultants, whether you're marketing and sales focused. Driving business value upward is a particularly important area of opportunity for members of XPX Charlotte. And right today, we don't offer any services of any kind to business owners, but we are preparing to be able to take inbound inquiries from business owners about, what do I need to know about exit planning? And how can I begin the process and be able to collect those inquiries and be able to leverage the network of business talent in our chapter to be able to help them move forward in their exit planning journey.
Cool. So do you necessarily only take in the advisors, or do you also take in other consultants or who could be a potential ally to business advisors?
Our focus is any professional who has a role to play in helping a small and mid-market company advance in exit planning. So that's a pretty broad net.
Yeah.
Because so many consultants, like I had been when I started Exit Planning Exchange of Charlotte, I was a consultant. And I was doing value growth consulting work. And I was collaborating with all of those specialists in finance and operations and marketing and sales and HR.
Right.
In order to be able to deliver that. So I would encourage anyone in any of those disciplines that provides services to small and mid-market companies in the Charlotte region to check out XPX Charlotte.
How do they check out? How do they find you?
They can go to xpxcharlotte.com.
Oh, okay.
And you'll see a website that shows what we're about, who's a member, what our mission is, and that's where they can go to apply as a member.
Cool. All right. So we're towards the end. Let's just get to the rapid fire.
Okay.
Even though it's rapid fire, feel free to take your time and answer.
Okay.
There is no right or wrong answer.
All right.
So morning person or night owl?
Morning.
Morning. What time do you wake up?
6.
And what time do you sleep?
10.
10, 12?
10.
Okay.
10.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite productivity tool?
Is probably ChatGPT.
Okay.
Yep.
Off late, right?
Uh-huh.
And one book that you would recommend every business owner reads.
I would recommend any book that has to do with exit planning. And there's many out there. One I might point to is John Brown, who's the founder of BEI,
Right.
wrote a really excellent book.
Hmm.
Actually, I got a couple copies of that on my shelf. If
Cool,
anyone needs
cool.
one.
And any particular book for the advisors? Same thing?
The same. They should be reading those books as well.
Okay. What's your go-to source for industry news?
Probably Wall Street Journal.
Wall Street. And do you have a online subscription?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Coffee, tea?
I am ambivalent. I was drinking tea for probably the last 5 years, and I've recently got an espresso machine, and now I'm back on the coffee kick.
Cool, cool. What's one habit that has actually helped you improve your productivity?
Well, having the ability to understand technology and employ technology has always been an advantage to me throughout my career.
Right.
So being able to leverage AI the way that I do is a particular
Skill.
advantage.
Yeah.
Particular skill.
Any habit that you've developed which actually helps you in better productivity?
Just being very structured and disciplined in the way that you spend your time and account for your time.
Nice.
Because time is the only thing you have
Right.
to work with. So I think it's particularly important to create some structure around that using some sort of tool set. There's plenty of them out there.
Yeah.
I personally use Microsoft To Do
Okay.
because it integrates with the Microsoft
Yeah.
environment. But there's plenty of other ones out there.
Yeah, I use Monday.com.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
There's like Notion.
Yeah, Notion is good.
a
Notion app
tool
is good.
that
Yeah.
has a lot of benefits to it
Yep.
as well.
There's ClickUp. There's
Mm-hmm.
Monday. There is Asana. But Monday's been my favorite so far.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. What's your biggest, according to you, what's the biggest misconception about business advisors?
Probably that they're all the same. I think every business advisor has their strengths and weaknesses, and so I think that's a big misconception. We're not all the same
Yeah.
as business advisors.
Cool. And what's the most underrated skill for a business advisor or consultant?
I think I mentioned earlier, listening.
Listening. Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
One piece of advice you wish you had received earlier in your career?
To focus on the big picture. Earlier in my career, I was like most young people focused on how do I get that next promotion.
Yeah, right.
Without really putting into a larger context where I wanted my life journey to go. So I think that's looking big picture, looking down the road, I think is particularly important.
Yeah. Look beyond the obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So what's your favorite vacation spot, mountains or beach?
Probably mountains.
Any reason?
We live down south, right?
Okay.
So it gets kind of warm in Charlotte, and
Right.
going up to the mountains is a great way to
Get away. Yep.
get away from some of the heat.
Cool.
And of course, talked about big picture, being able to get to the top of a mountain and be able to see the vistas out there helps you
Makes
to
sense.
kind of get that mind.
Level set.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. So what's a business trend that you're most excited about?
Of course, I'm going to say AI.
Yeah, I was expecting that.
I'm going to say AI, of course.
I know we talked about it, but any particular reason that you want to highlight because of the AI?
Well, the impact of AI is going to continue to be more and more profound in everything we do. So that's why I think it's so important that we all have some grounding in what AI is and what it can do and how it can aid us in whatever we're doing today.
Right.
If anyone is out there and hasn't experienced ChatGPT, it's free to log in there. They should just try asking it a few questions, and you'll get hooked quite easily.
Yep, absolutely. How do you define success in your own terms?
Just being able to eventually achieve retirement and be able to spend our remaining years, I say my wife and I,
On your own terms.
on our own terms, doing everything that we feel our heart drives us to do. That's probably how I articulate it.
Cool. So you've been in this business for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you is, if you were not doing business advisory or developing this analysis, what would you be doing?
I'd probably still be doing some area of technology.
Fintech?
Maybe, but not necessarily limited to that. I might also be doing something in the way of music.
Okay. You play music?
Yeah, I'd like to compose.
Oh, nice.
That's probably what I'm going to be doing in my retirement is doing a little bit of that. I
You got a company there.
Yeah, I started playing piano in restaurants and bars to earn pizza money at
Back in the days.
Purdue University.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that's kind of before all this started to happen. I was behind a keyboard.
Very nice.
So
that's interesting. I never knew that part of you.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. So first thing you do when you start your work day?
I look at my calendar and I see who I'm going to be talking to during that day, and I create some notes about why I'm meeting with them, what I need to make sure I talk about, the questions I should be asking them, so that I'm well prepared for those conversations.
Very good. So do you do time blocking for these things?
Yeah. Well, of course, my calendar has appointments on it, but I also take the to-dos off of Microsoft To Do and drag those to my calendar, so that way I can make sure to block off sufficient time to be able to achieve the ones that are important.
One piece of technology you can't live without, besides AI?
Oh, that was the easy answer, of course. I think, again, I'm a heavy user of
To Do.
of Microsoft.
Okay.
And so the OneNote platform
that's great.
Is a particular, it's central to the way that I organize my documentation.
Have you used Evernote?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have. And I decided to go to
Microsoft.
Microsoft.
Makes sense, yeah. A lot of the corporates use Microsoft Evernote. Sorry, OneNote.
Right. Absolutely.
Yep. Favorite way to relax after a long day?
Probably sitting out on the patio with a cocktail with my wife.
Nice. Very nice. Mm-hmm. And what's your favorite part of working with advisors and business owners?
My favorite part is that since I've been both throughout my long career, I've kind of walked in their shoes and have that empathy and respect for the work that they do. So that's my favorite part, is just being able to work with them because I understand what they're going through and I appreciate their challenges and the journey that they're on.
Cool. One word to describe your product, Evalusis.
Insightful.
Very nice. Great word. If you could solve one problem for the business owner today, what would that be?
I'm going to jump back to exit planning. I would ask them to become aware of the need for exit planning.
It's a 5-year plan that you have to start from now.
Minimum 5 years.
Yeah.
Minimum 5 years.
Cool.
And the good news is the more exit ready they become, the easier it is for them to operate their business.
Cool.
So that's the dirty little secret about exit planning. It's going to actually make your job leading a company much easier if you're ready for a successful exit. Cool.
So now we're towards the end of our conversation. I always ask this question. You've seen Business Club few months ago, and we'd also discussed about what we're planning to do a little bit. Anything that you like about Business Club, anything that you don't like, and feel free to say, because we'll take your feedback as positive feedback and see what we can do.
Yeah, I think your mission is great. I think you're continuing to grow and evolve that, and I need to spend more time with you to understand exactly where you're going to be taking that. But I have certainly recognized that you have a great deal of passion for that work, and you are a true entrepreneur. You don't hesitate to get out there and try stuff. So I give you a lot of credit for that.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Tom. I look forward to having many more conversations like this.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having.
Thank you.
Hey guys, I hope you really liked the video, and if you did, please like, subscribe, and comment. And we would like to reach many more small business owners. I would really appreciate if you can share the video with them as well. Thank you, and see you until next time. Have a great one.